And if you're watching T, don't eat too many of them ducks, mate. We love the spaces we've got up here already.
He says he's the greatest cook of duck. That's if you like it fried, boiled, curried or roasted. And he's even been trying it out in a hangi today. But it's a bit of a family reunion for the Nico whānau. They all descend on Lake, is it Waikiri, I think it is, in northeast of Huntly. And, you know, it's great for the whānau, not so great for the ducks.
Well, yes, that is south, isn't it? South of the Bombays. I'll tell you what, Paul Bergman's got to have a lot to be happy about this first half performance from the Wellington Orcas. They're 10 from 11 as far as completions go. Only a poor error from Ben Taurika there trying to keep the ball in, but everything looking good so far.
Here's the Lions. That's a nice little offload too, and up the middle they go, causing problems for the Orcas now. Scoreline 10-6, 2 tries to 1 at the moment, but the Lions starting to look serious down the left flank. The grubber kick through and the chase is on. Buchanan shadows, but eventually Taurika is forced to collect in goal, and he's run into touch in goal. They'll start from under the sticks. That's right. You couldn't ask for a better set from the Auckland Lions there after the try score. How many times do we normally see when after a try score an error by the try scoring team? Brett Gimm will be very happy with that set of 6 to get a repeat set off the dropout and another chance to get in level scores up at 10-all. 14 minutes to go.
It's a worrying sign for the defensive line of the Wellington Orcas. Their inability to stop their offloads right in the middle of the paddock. The Lions are there all supporting one another, and they're gaining easy yards right up the middle of the field. And hopefully it's something that the Orcas can rectify real quick.
Dylan Davis winds himself up. Gets them a good field position, does the former New Zealand Māori player.
That was just a good point that you just spoke about there, Tiara, as we saw Dylan Davis carry the ball at 100 miles an hour and that first up hit being missed. So, you know, Wellington, let's see if they can keep this try and defence going.
Well, here's an opportunity towards the line. It's held up short, says the referee, and Danny O'Regan will be asked to play it back to Regan. That's him, Regan Wigg. O'Regan's in front of the man, and he will call a knock on from Regan Wigg. Orcas scrum feed.
Yeah, I don't know at the moment, Tiara. Regan Wigg looks a little bit out of sorts, mate. Everything that he's doing isn't 100 miles an hour like he normally does. Yeah, just have a look at the pickup here. It's very lethargic and laboured. Of course, I don't know whether there was a knock-up from Wellington. I just think it was poor play from Regan Wigg.
Lions still, and a big chance as they work the ball wide. Find David Fisiahi steps into a little hole. That shuts down quickly under the tackle of Matulino. Ball's played, back to Marty Mitchell. Wide they come, this time Packer. Packer with the ball for the line, goes Powder Packer, he's in.
Powder Packer, too big, too strong. I bet you Davey Lomax has loved to see that. Once played for the Central Falcons already this year, now facing up for the Auckland Lions. I don't know exactly how that worked, but again, the error caused and the referee's call of a knock-on by Meli Kolava out there in the left-hand side for the Wellington Orcas has paid dividends for the Auckland Lions. As we see, with 12 minutes to go in the first half, the score's tied up at 10-all.
Well, they've made their own field position, have the Lions. The Orcas almost upset them on the line, but this time it's with Powder Packer. And of course, these young fellas from the Manawatu, plenty to prove and a great future ahead. That's strong running towards the line.
Yeah, just on that side there, Daley Johnson. It was just a clean one-on-one attempt against Powder Packer. He put the spin on him, left him eating his dust. So again, it's their inability to stop the offloads that is for the Lions are gaining field position far too easy. And I guess on that line, it's just those one-on-one tackles where the tackles need to be made just aren't being completed.
I'll tell you what, Tiara, has Tony Wharo ever asked you to coach their team, mate? Because you have a wonderful mind for a footballer.
Mate, I'll tell you, probably the only thing that let me get down there is water boy. And when I get down to the club, nobody shouts me a drink either, even though all the props I give them.
Is that the same club that Tawit is from?
Nah, he's a Rangiriri Eel, mate. They're from up Mauri. They're about 10 minutes up the road.
Okay, well, as we can see, fellas, these Orcas starting to wear a little thin now, but the advantage that they do have, Tony, is that they've been in the gym a lot, you know, and they're young and fit and they recover quickly. So I don't think we'll see them falling away in the back 20 as we have other teams in the first 3 rounds.
No, they've shown enough to me in this first 30 minutes of the game that they're going to be there at the back end of it. It's just that, like Tiari said, the inability to hit and stick on their first up tackle, as we see again, Daley Johnson being pushed off first up in that tackle. So if they can correct that, they're doing everything right. They're 10 from 12. They had a lot of the field position, they've had a lot of the football, and they're still there on the scoreboard, so hopefully they can keep it up.
And now the Lions, about 15 short of the halfway line. About 5 short of halfway now as they get up and play it back. Through the hands of Mitchell, onto Ioane. Testing on the far side through O'Regan.
I'm just looking on the field here, boys. I think there might be something in there about Regan Wigg, like you're talking about, Tony. It looks as though Kimi Uwasi, who was with the Jets last year at halfback, has come into hooker. So there must be something going on there. It was pretty early days to bring on a hooker with 30 minutes only gone in the first half.
There's Fasiahi on the far side. Kick back on the infield for his brother. The chase is on, and it will beat everyone dead.
I tell you what, these touch judges need to open up their eyes. That pass there out to Salafai was forward and missed by the touchy on the far hand side there. Wellington lucky to get away with that there. And like you said though, Tiari, I do think right from the outset that Regan Wigg wasn't right, especially watching him pass the ball over the try line, which we haven't seen done for a long time.
Now the Orcas in possession. We'll have a look at the stats again for you, and just keeping an eye on the completion rates for you. Possession still 46% now for the Orcas. That's turned around in the last 5 or 6 minutes. 53% at the moment. 92 tackles made by the Lions and 81 at the moment from the Orcas. They're in possession and up they come through. Mozema Soe, who, as you would imagine, is related to the champion New Zealand boxer, world title holder at one stage, Mazi Masoe. Is also related to Chris Masoe as well from the rugby fraternity. At centre field, they'll get up to play it through Justin Carnegie. Here we come with the Orcas on attack. The grubber kick through Daley Johnson. Far side, Fisiahi reads it well, bounces convenient, and he is away 15 out from his own line.
Yeah, just a bit of an ordinary finish to a great set of 6 there by Daley Johnson there. I thought the kick would have been a lot better. He's not having a look to see where the Auckland Lions wingers are as far as retreating. They're always back on the 5. I think he's going to have more fun going to the edge, Dale. I think that little chip through hasn't worked for him in the first half. Let's hope that Paul Bergman can pick up on that in the second.
Mozema Soe checks himself. Referee has a good look. Decides it's not a high tackle on Gunther Schomkel, who plays the ball back now as we see a darting run from Kimi Uwasi, who is on. High shot deemed. And then the conviction made, referee penalising.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough one. You've got Ben Matalino, who's 6'4", and of course young Kimi Uwasi, who's only 4'4". So
now, is that with or without his hair?
Yeah, that's right. He's always going to call it a high shot. I thought that was okay, but that's not my call to make. That's our man in the middle, Aaron Kishan, to make. You see Matty Stern take us up 30 metres out from the Orcas try line.
Now 18 out, and the run through the hole, it opens up, great effort, Lions are in. Well, it opened like the Red Sea, didn't it? There's a big hole, and taking full advantage of it, Fisiahi is your try scorer, 10 to the right-hand side of the post.
I tell you what, it opened up like the Cook Straight, and he was a fairy going right through it to get over that try line. As we picked first early on in the first half there, the problem that they're having at the moment, the Wellington Orcas, is that their tight spots behind the markers aren't working hard enough, and they're getting found out. Young Usai just come on. He's just had a field day running through Cook Straight there as we see him jump out of dummy half there. Got a hand laid on him. Great two-hand carry, and of course young Paul Fisiahi, too much speed, too good at backing up and scoring the try to take them in front, 14-10.
You touched on a very pertinent point there, Tony, and that is the defence just behind the ruck, a hole that opened very conveniently for the Lions. They took full advantage. You just cannot allow the Lions any opportunity. As we see Howard Matthews looking to add the extras. 14-10 with the kick to come. The kick is successful. 16-10 the scoreline, but still a very exciting match in progress here, and I'm glad to have your company, part of the commentary team, and welcome to Māori Television, the home of New Zealand League. If you've just joined us, this is round 4 of the National Championship, and the Lions, the team to beat the defending premiers, up against the Wellington Orcas, who come to Dāmaki Makaurau to Te Raki Whaewhenua in actual fact. And they have 1 win from 3 starts, and a ton of work to do if they're going to make it win number 2 for their coach Paul Bergman.
Stay behind the ball.
How are they feeling down there, Tiari, at the moment? The Wellington boys, I see that they were talking a while there. On the way back, I was just watching. No one was talking. What's it like down there?
Exactly right. It's all pretty quiet on this end of the park. I'm just going back to that decision from the sideline when they ruled Ben Taraika stepped out, which led to the first try of the Auckland Lions. It looks as though just from that point onwards, it's just kind of taken the sails out. And you're looking at them behind the try line. Their heads are kind of down. I mean, they're still in this game. Still only 5 minutes to go left in this half. If they are somehow able to muster up some type of break where they can score, mate, it's going to be a fantastic finish for the Orcas, who are going to be right in this with the Lions.
Well, the Lions, hugely experienced. Got some real talent on their bench as well. Young Eddie Purcell had an outstanding match last week against the Canterbury Bulls. And speaking of the Bulls, you can get a chance to watch their hit out against the Counties Manukau Jets tomorrow at 2 o'clock on Māori television every Saturday and Sunday. Our match predominantly in Te Reo Māori, Apopo, and check it out with Sonny Whakaro, also Richie Barnett and Tarahi Maipi. From 2 tomorrow, it's the Jets and the Bulls on Māori television as we see a scrum set 5 metres inside the Lions' half.
And here's that chance that you were talking about, Tiari. Let's see if all the Wellington Orcas can conjure up a bit of brilliance here in attack and go over to possibly take this in at a draw 16-all at half-time.
Hayden McGalley gets hold of the ball, finds Meli Koliavu. That's him with the football now, spinning, trying to get away from the Lions tacklers. Will play the ball on the 40-metre line. The Orcas now out of dummy half of the darting run goes the try scorer Buchanan. He gets the ball jarred loose, and a scrum will be set now. It'll be a Lions feed, 25 out from their own line in centre field. Yes,
as we just see there, they started the first 20 minutes like a house on fire. The Wellington Orcas completing 8 from 8. They're now 10 sets out of 13. The Auckland Lions 15 out of 20. Squared up basically right through the statistics as we look at them, Dale. The big telling one, Tiarahi, up here is that the Auckland Lions have 13 offloads as to Wellington's 3, so it is causing them a lot of problems here.
And they're causing problems down the right flank, and again, somewhat exposed defensively, the Orcas. Isiahi into dummy half. He just scored the most recent of the tries for the Lions. We'll say a big kia ora to a couple and their baby who watch religiously the rugby league on Māori television. So a big kia ora going out to Joe and Jessica. Young Cassidy, their darling daughter out in West Auckland. Hope you're enjoying the action here this afternoon. Sala Fa'aloa plays the ball on the 20-metre line, and back through the hands they come this time as they look to straighten and do through Sturm. Holds off and then offloads out the back door, finds Ioane with the football who off, almost goes through, and a desperate last-ditch grab from Matolino, grubber kick from Fisiahi, taken by Taraeka. Problems aplenty for the young fullback, nowhere to go.
As they get another repeat set here, the Auckland Lions, beautiful carry through the line from Raymond Ioane with a 2-hand carry. And Ben Matolino just hanging on to his curtails there to stop the try being scored. But once again, we see young Ben Taraika in the right place at the right time to save Wellington coming out there and only letting the Auckland Lions get a repeat set. But nice decision there by Paul Fisiasi just to dribble the ball in there, and we haven't seen that being at Mount Smart Stadium with the small in goals. The kicking game really hasn't been able to come to fruition, but we are seeing that today, Dale.
It's become quite an interesting match here. I hope you're enjoying it. Coverage of New Zealand's premier rugby league competition right through this season. 10-team comp. Each team plays twice, and then a top 4 play down to the final the second week in September. And we look forward to being with you all the way here on Māori television. 20 metres out from the try line now, the Lions, as we count down 2.5 to play in this first half. It's been an entertaining first half of football as it comes through Mitchell, who works it wide. Over the top they go this time for Swan, and Swan puts it out to Shomko. Referee says, come on back, though.
A good call by the touchy there. It goes to see that the touchy on this side of the football field is up to his, the standard of the game that it determines. So well done for Wellington to hold them out there, and they were right under the pump as far as going to the half-time. Clean set of 6 here. That's all they need. That's all Paul Bergman will be hoping for, with as time's been called off by Aaron Keeshan. A good set of 6 to come out, followed by a good kick, and hopefully go on a half-time with a lot of good stuff that happened in the first half to reflect on.
I reckon so, and even if they went in with the scoreline as it is, I think their coach Paul Bergman would have to be pretty content with the effort from the Orcas. But the Lions, they too know that every team who plays against them is trying to knock them off their mantle. Tati Maipi, you mentioned that the Orcas haven't lacked in scoring ability in the first 40. How do they fare in the second stanza?
Well, that unfortunately seems to be the telling tale why they've only won 1 game and lost 2. In the second half, they're averaging scoring 13 points, which is ranked 8th in the competition, but their defence, also ranked 8th, is leading in 23 points a game. Hence the reason why they beat the Falcons last week convincingly, but they would be ruining the opportunity they missed against the Rangers in round 2. They were up 24-10 and they lost the 36-28 in the dying stages of the game.
And you find more from our regular stats man on the boil-up program, looking at our local footy. Another addition to sports coverage here on Māori television. Turnover, and the Lions will take possession 15 short of halfway.
Yeah, poor finish there by Ben Tyroka. I thought he had the overlap there and he should have used up Joe Flint, who's out here on the right wing in the number 17 jersey. But now they've got 10 seconds to hold the Auckland Lions out as we count down to half-time.
There's the Buchanan, Justin Carnegie, the scorers for the Orcas. They still look at a deficit of 6 points on the scoreboard as the kick is put through from Marty Mitchell. Far side taken by Meli Kuliavu. And he turns to face up to the Lions defenders who swarm on him and wrap them, cocoon him and put him to the ground now. 25 from the line. With the Orcas pushing away through Tim Cahill. This is the speedster I've mentioned, who has yet to really get some clear space and to really see those legs pumping. There is the hooter for the first 40 minutes. It has been an entertaining first 40, without doubt, as Buchanan and Carnegie get over for the Orcas and set them up in a good start. But then we have the Lions coming back, as we see a little bit of pushing and shoving to end the first 40. Referee's in the midst of it all, and he wraps it up here at North Harbour Stadium. 16-10 is the scoreline. The Lions with a couple of late tries to overtake the Orcas, and they lead comfortably at halftime, 16-10. Ask him if he could just have a word to one of the NZRL guys and find out about Paul Packer. I mean, he played for the Falcons and now he's with the Lions. So is it just because his transfer came through?
Oh, sorry. Was I dribbling?
Welcome back to Te Raki Whenua, North Harbour Stadium, and the scoreline at half-time of this round 4 National Premiership match is 16-10 in favour of the reigning premiers, the Lions, over the Orcas. And Tony Kemp, there's a lot to like in that first 40.
Yes, I was very impressed by the way that the Wellington Orcas came out and started the game. They completed their first 8 sets, went through the second half of the game with just letting a couple of niggly little small errors come through, but all the signs are there that it's going to be a great second half, Dale.
Now, for the Orcas, we saw a lot of running from dummy half and working the middle of the field. Do you expect to see them work it wide in the early in the second half?
Yeah, look, I think Paul Bergman's got a very simple game plan. He just wants to make sure that his boys are sharing the possession of the football, and when they do get the position on the field down into the Lions' 20-metre line, they do have a decent shot with the likes of Ben Matulino and John Tuamaluga. So they have got the strike power to score tries, but as we know, the Auckland Lions, they don't let you sit down and just take this game off them. They want you to play football, and they can score a lot of tries themselves.
Well, Te Arahi might be. We came in with big raps for Ben Matulino, not surprisingly, but also the game plan from the Lions seemed to be nullifying his efforts.
Exactly right. It's been an interesting battle between him and also Salafaa Logo directly opposite him, the old gun against the new guy on the block. But they've been going head to head. But you're exactly right. He has been kept quite quiet, which is a facet of his game that has developed really well this year has been his attack and offloading. I guess one positive thing for the Wellington Orcas is that they haven't had the amount of possession and territory that the Lions have, but they have been efficient and they have been deadly at the times they have been down the Lions' end of the field. It's only 6 points between them. The majority of the time was with the Lions, but that's, I guess, one key thing that Bergman can have well for his Wellington Orcas.
Here are your stats from that first half. Not surprisingly, possession fairly much evened itself out there in the latter part of the match. They certainly enjoyed a glut of possession early on.
Yeah, right across the board there, we see both teams are sharing basically in every part of the game, the territory, the possession, the meters game. The big telling factor here is the offloads, where we've got 15 offloads by the Auckland Lions as opposed to only 3 by the Orcas, and it's the offloads that are causing the Orcas a load of problems, and they're playing behind that with the likes of Paul Fisiasi, okay, and our big Whaologos second row out there on the right, so that's causing them a lot of damage. So hopefully Paul Bergman's in there now in the change room just saying, look boys, you need to make that first up tackle, and when you do, stick to them and put them to the ground, and they're not going to get that offloads that are causing you a lot of problems.
3 tries to 2, the Lions leading the Orcas at half-time. Stick around, we'll have the excitement of the second 40 coming your way next on Māori Television. Welcome back to North Harbour Stadium, 16-10, the scoreline at half-time here in this round 4 match of the National Premiership. The Auckland Lions, and they have a 3-2 scoreline, excuse me. Mind blank.
You're sounding like Richie, mate.
Oh, thanks
you're sounding
very
like
much.
Richie.
Kia ora. It's great to have your company here on Pōwhakata Māori, the home of New Zealand Rugby League. And a reminder too that we've got a neat game coming tomorrow, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That features the Jets lining up against the Canterbury Bulls as we see these two teams making their way back out onto the track. Big day for footy in Auckland City as well. Of course, one of our few Saturday night matches with the Warriors tonight, Tony.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing as the Auckland Lions are walking out of their changing room. They're coming back out onto the field. Of course, later on this afternoon, we've got the Premier League team playing curtain raiser before the big game tonight in at Ericsson Stadium. The Warriors facing the Cronulla Sharks. Don't know, with or without Brett Cormorley.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of leagueies out enjoying their Saturday night out. Here's Fisiahi. That's David, his brother Paul, the try scorer. I hope I've got that right. The Orcas certainly well and truly in this match, Tata. He might be 3 tries to 2, and if they score early in the second half, we could be in for a ding-dong 40.
Exactly right, and if it's a tight game, goal kicking could be a key, and things are definitely in the Wellington Orcas' favour. With looking at their top goal kicker, which is Magele, he's hitting it at roughly about 90% so far this year, whereas the Lions have only been hitting it at about 50%. So if it comes down to the goal kicking thing, my money will be with the Orcas.
I got to say too, Dale, mate, my kids would have loved that. The ding-dong, mate. They reckon that was my favourite saying last year. As we're just about to get off here, as Marty Mitchell hits us into another ding-dong battle.
Okay, thanks very much. Tony Kemp up in the commentary booth this afternoon. Could well be the last time too, with the little bits of jibing. And
Finally made it. Finally made it. Thanks, Bailey.
Great to have your company. Here we go with the second 40 as we just await the referee's call for the kickoff. Game on here at Te Raki Pai Whenua. 3 tries to 2 as the ball is taken in deep and then fed up by Hayden Magale. Wind up time for the big prop forward, comes surging forward with the football. That's Masui. Good defence as well from the Lions. Matty Sturm. Of course, those of you who didn't see the match last week on Māori television, Matthew Sturm's been away playing in England for the last, I'd have to say, 6 or 7 years, I would suspect. And Huddersfield was where he plied his trade. He's now 35 and back having a stint back where it all began for him.
I'll tell you what, and he was outstanding too in his time over there in the UK. He did the New Zealanders proud as far as representing that competition. And of course, like most of us, when you come home, you never want to give it up. But this has probably been Matty Stern's last, what would you call it, fairy tale season, hopefully, with the Auckland Lions.
Well, they're certainly the favourites to take the championship once again. And by early season form, that favouritism is justified as Masui takes it forward again. Keep an eye out for the number 12 here for the Orcas. He too has had a stint in England. He played for Workington for 2 seasons. He just returned home last week. That's Jason Ntuimoranga.
Second marker gets square, 14.
Short side, Benny Matulino. Here he is, the man everyone's talking about. He goes through one and gets the pass away, but the ball goes to ground.
Just with that too, great carry by Ben Matulino, but again, the finished product there with the late offload, which he probably didn't need to throw. That's the difference between this level of football and, of course, the NRL. He will be taught those decision-making options. Yes, lovely little carry there as we see him going through the line of Salafa'aloga there, but a poor finish as Paul Bergman won't be too happy with that.
Well, the tactics here of Gemmell to use Salafa'aloga up the right flank almost all the time. I'm just wondering how Bergman is using his second rows. Are we seeing them wide at times as well, Tony?
Yeah, that's right. And I think that his 2 big strike weapons are his 2 second rows, John Tuimaluga and Ben Matulino. I just think that the halfbacks are playing a little bit too deep behind the advantage line when they do have the ball in their hand. And if they do flatten out, they're going to create havoc with the ruck area of the Auckland Lions, which allows their back rows to have a little bit more space. So, you know, it's just something that Paul will obviously pick up later on in his coaching career.
When we see some of the best in the business kicking games, Lockyers, your Andrew Johns, I wonder whether as much emphasis is placed in New Zealand football on the kicking game, because we don't seem to be producing the distance kicked by a lot of those guns in Aussie.
No, and if you think about it, as far as the New Zealand Rugby League goes, Dale, we don't have to, because we have such big kids that roll us down the park, and most of the kicking game that we have is only a short kicking game anyway. As we see a great little kick put through there by Raymond Ioane, and just didn't come off with him. Wellington lived to play the ball and get out of their own 20. But like I said, with that kicking game, if you look at our young kids through 14 through to 18, they're all giants, and they just roll teams down to the other end of the field, and the short kicking game is basically all what we've got. In Australia, it's totally different. They're up front, they're confrontational, and they have to develop a long kicking game. So it's up to our coaches to make sure that that's part of our technique-driven coaching school that we teach our young kids.
I guess on Tuesday and Thursday nights, when you get the team together, that it can seem a little bit as though you're isolating one player. If you send them down the other end of the field and say, here's a dozen balls, let's just practice 40-20s or long raking punts. But it's such a potent weapon in your arsenal that it seems every team should take a little more time to develop that part of their game.
And that's right, and I'll just take a letter out of Andrew John's book. When he was at training, mate, that's all he done. He just practiced and practiced, and it didn't matter whether he was there half an hour before training or an hour after training. That's why he had such a wonderful kicking game, is because he practiced and he had the coaches that were driving it too. So, you know, it's just something we need to develop, mate. As we see here, Ben Taurika taking the line on and getting a kick, which allows David Fisiasi to pick it up 10 metres out from his own try line.
He's an exciting player, is Taurika, and he's moved from 9 to 1. Do you think that they could benefit from seeing him and getting involved more? In fact, I see that he's not even playing at the back at the moment. There's a big hole opens up for the Lions now. We'll go with the play as they come charging down the field. Cut down, 35 out from the line. Penalty to the Lions. Sideline, Tarahi Maipi.
Tika tau tau ana koina no tau āhuatanga e huhuti ana te kapa Lions I te rārangi o te kapa Wellington Orcas ki Wainga Nui Whira. Nā tērā kei te tino raru rātau ara he hāmene ki te kapa Lions kia noho pū ki roto I te wāhanga mō rea o te kapa Orcas.
Tēnā koe Tarahi, the Orcas with the football now, and back to their 17. Joey Flint is his name.
Yes, that was an absolute shocker by Raymond Ioane there, who's kicking for field positioners and to get the Auckland Lions on attack. No direction whatsoever, and the Wellington Orcas come up with a football 30 out from their own try line.
Tim Cahill gets a ball late, pops it out the back door, finds Mozema Sue, and he attracts the defensive efforts of 3 Lions tacklers and is put away just short of the 20-metre line. Back to Cahill it comes. This is their speedster, as I mentioned, runs the 100 metres in 10.9, but he's had precious few opportunities so far given to him by his teammates. That pass floated forward.
There's Troy Nico there with a pretty ordinary pass out there to Mili Koliavu. But we're just seeing there probably, I think, our young mate Tim Cahill probably is running a little bit too much from dummy half. Maybe get off one off the ruck a little bit more and skirt out wide and try and beat them for pace and move the defensive line out around a little bit. Dale, let's maybe we see that in the next time they get the ball anyway.
Here comes the Mitchell, Marty Mitchell. The Orcas come at him and drown him. 15 out from the try line. Out of dummy half. Darting run, Shumkul once again. He's shown his worth over the last couple of seasons. Little dummy, and Uasi goes towards the line himself. Kimi Uasi played with the Jets last year, with the Lions this season. The Orcas will have to be on their game and on their defensive line as a jinking run comes from Fisiahi. Short ball out to Fa'alongo. Now with the football is David Fisiahi. He has a look, leans out to put the ball down and scores in the field of play.
Jeez, he reminded me of Tawita Nikau there on our days at Castleford, where he dived over the 10-metre line out from the try line there and thought he scored a try. David Fisiahi putting his hand down there 5 metres out from the try line and thinking that he scored a try. Tawita, bring back the memories, mate. I love it.
You take every opportunity you can to bag our duck shooting, mate. Quack, quack, he says, as they set the scrum on the 10-metre line. Here's another look. Fisiahi, try time. Or not even.
Might be because he's got one goal in his mind. David Fisiahi last year took over from Ricky Henry as the most prolific try scorer in Bartercard Cup history. He needs 3 more to crack 100, so no doubt he's got that goal in his mind.
Koliavu with a suicidal ball. He's put his team under tremendous pressure now, 15 out from the line. Went to pop the pass back. It went into no man's land, and now his team Are under the cogwash, whatever that term is. Now to the Uasi. Out to Fisiahi. And Matulino claims him 8 from the line, but still the Orcas must stand rock solid. Matthew Sturm pops the ball out the back. Now it's back with Uasi, darting. He's carrying on like a fantail.
Move.
Still with the Lions. Flat ball, looking confident. Mitchell turns it on the inside. This time it's with Louis Faleonua.
Release and clear. I'm working.
Keeping out 2 for Eddie Purcell here to fine game out of dummy half. They go over and in. The Lions score.
And you've got to be disappointed after defending for 3 sets of 6 to only let Marty Mitchell pick the ball up from dummy half and crash through 2 of your biggest forwards. The smallest man on